I'm Secretary of State Rosanna Rosato's designee as chair, and I want to thank you for having the board and division here at your annual meeting. I see a lot of familiar faces, so you've heard this spiel before, but it really is an honor and a privilege to be here. I like that you get to see what we do, at least some of it, and I love the questions that you ask. Last year we had some spirited discussion, and maybe there'll be some this year. I got one already, yes. Oh, how's that? Okay. You'll get a piece of that. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for you, the agenda's a little light today, but I'm sure we'll have stuff to discuss. And then after the public session of the agenda, I open up the board meetings, as I always do, by the way, in our regular board meetings, for anybody who would like to address us for any reason whatsoever. And we'll do that today, and hopefully we'll have some good questions and answers, or not answers, some good questions. So why don't I just start? So as I said, Dan Shapiro.
I am Christopher Wiles. I am the Attorney General's representative on the Cemetery Board.
I'm Paul Ambrose. I represent Commissioner Howard Zucker of the New York State Department of Health.
I guess we can actually take this off the stand. Look at that, even better.
Louis Polishuk, Director, Division of Cemeteries.
Chester Butkowitz, Assistant Director, Division of Cemeteries.
Tony Melillo, Counsel to the Cemetery Board.
And division folks, why don't you identify yourself? Monet? Or?
I'm Mike Seelman, Senior Investigator with the Division of Cemeteries.
Monet McAdoo, Secretary, Division of Cemeteries.
Glenn Green, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Wait, call. All right.
We got two more.
Oh, where are they?
Two more.
Where?
Way back.
Okay, introduce yourselves, folks.
Cindy Craig, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
Brendan Stanton, Investigator, Division of Cemeteries.
So we've got almost as many cemetery folks here as we do you guys. So, yeah, one more.
Carrie covered Investigator, also for Division of Cemeteries.
There you go. Okay. So, minutes of previous meeting. Have folks had an opportunity to review?
I'm against them.
As usual. Any corrections, amendments, discussion?
I had some.
Okay, erstwhile council, go ahead.
Let's see. This is the minutes of March 16. The Grove Place Cemetery land purchase matter. The next to line, the last line, motion as follows. I think it should be motion made, seconded, and unanimously approved as follows.
Great. Okay.
And then on the last page, the Whitehaven matter, again, the last sentence regarding the motion, I think it should read, motion was made, seconded, and unanimously approved to approve the project and to recommend Supreme Court approval of the permanent maintenance loan and repayment schedule as presented.
Good. Anybody else in those? Any issues? If not, motion?
Under legislation and regulation, cemetery regulations were adopted and published on March 9. Would it be possible to list which ones?
Which one?
One.
Changes to financial reporting regulations.
Cemetery regulations regarding financial reporting.
There should be changes to new regulations.
Regarding things like financial reporting.
Also, under legislation and regulations, Senate Bill number 840A. It currently reads, this bill would add a new section to the mental hygiene law to require the release of patient names and other information for patients who have been buried for 50 years at a state mental health institution. Can we add at least 50 years?
Yes. Oh, good.
And released to whom? Or is that a moot point?
To the public.
To the public? Yes? That's correct?
Yep.
Ought we clarify that these are deceased patients?
You make the fix. You've got the spirit of the amendment. All right, so, having amended, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve these minutes as read, both March 16th and March 29th.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, legislation and regulation. Mr. Malillo.
Wait, you have another set of minutes to approve.
We did,
just did.
we just
You
did. Yep,
Special minutes?
we did.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what happens.
We just had no changes.
I blinked.
Okay, there has been some activity, mostly in the Senate. The first item that we see activity on is number 8 on the list. It's Senate Bill 2207. This would affect the penal law regarding cemetery. It would create the crime of cemetery desecration of a veteran cemetery. That passed the Senate. The next is number 10 on my list. It's Senate Bill 3806. This increases the penalties for cemetery desecration. And this passed the Senate. The next item is number 13, Senate Bill 1104. This would enhance the penalties for criminal mischief and larceny offenses committed at a place of religious worship and cemetery desecration. This advanced to the third reading. And then the last item is number 18, Senate Bill 3549. Let's see. This would allow veterans organizations to receive the cremains of veterans which have not been claimed by relatives or close friends. This passed the Senate. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Polishuk, are you prepared?
No.
Well, I've never heard you at a loss for words. Somewhat like your predecessor, who may...
I was thinking Richard should give the division report just for the hell of it. The main thing we've done in the last, two things we've done in the last month, one of which I reported on at the last regular meeting, but I'm going to do it again because there's a lot of folks this may affect who are in the room, is that there are a lot of cemeteries for which we do not have an audit report, meaning a division audit report. Stop, rewind, play. New York City's area cemeteries, we seem not to have audit reports on many of them for many years. That doesn't necessarily mean we haven't audited them in many years. I think there's a fair number that did have a division accountant review their books, but just we never seem to have finished the report. Others really haven't been audited for many years. We are catching up on those audits. We're using folks from Albany and Binghamton so far, and Syracuse, to do those. So don't be surprised if we come calling. It's not anything necessarily to do with you. It's more to do with the fact that we have some catching up to do. That was number one thing. Number two thing is that we are working on our guidance on applying to use net appreciation of perpetual care to for purposes for which a portion of net appreciation of perpetual care for purposes for which previously income could be used for perpetual care. NISAC's committee relevant to this has a copy of our proposal, and we're trying to find a time to meet soon to move forward on it. Anything to add from north of city line, Chet?
At this point, no, other than what Louis has shared, that some other division staff outside of New York City is helping to support our efforts with doing audits in New York City. Otherwise, north of Yonkers and west, efforts continue to provide guidance and support to cemeteries. We do reach out to communities by doing conferences. Cindy's big on, and other staff to meet with groups of cemetery representatives to get some guidance and information out to help everybody along. But nothing jumping off the pages to anything specific at this point.
One more thing, the minutes from the March meeting reflect our new financial regulations are in effect. There is a mailing from the division going out really soon that summarizes those in what I hope is plain English. But feel free to ask us in the break, call us. You can even ask me when I speak this afternoon about what this is all about.
All right. Chet, you might as well hang on to the phone, to the speaker, whatever it's called, microphone.
Yes.
Launch away.
For the vandalism report, for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2016, vandalism fees collected were $537,890. Applications granted totaled $644,351. Applications pending are $246,847. Of the applications granted, 8 were for vandalism, totaling $24,059. 22 applications were for restoration of hazardous monumentation, totaling $563,015. And 2 applications were for abandoned cemeteries, totaling $57,277.
Great. Thank you. All right. So, having heard your report, why don't we get on to the vandalism orders? Vandalism, abandoned, dangerous monument orders. There are 4. Did anybody have any issues with these particular applications?
Yeah, I have a general issue.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm hogging the microphone.
I think it might be easier if we had a checklist of everything that we should be looking at as a board, such as warranty, insurance, whether they're up to date on their filings. And I noticed in one particular that the resolution from the cemetery did not recite that there was a quorum present and what the vote was on that resolution, which these are all things that I always look for anyways.
Yeah, I think we've noted on several occasions that sometimes something is missing. I mean, because it's pros, and we've tightened up a lot. But, I mean, I don't know. Louis, what do you think? I think it's a fine idea to have a checklist, but...
Sure.
See, sure.
Yeah, you can't beat
I don't know
that.
why we need I'm not sure why we need a board resolution
No.
for them. No, I don't know why a cemetery needs a board resolution to make a vandalism application.
Oh, well, the one no, you're right. I think it was in the other one.
Must have been the land.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
land
Right.
I think it was in the land one,
Right,
yeah.
right. No, I think it's a great suggestion. It'll make our lives easier. So why don't we develop one and pass it around? Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Good suggestion. All right, so, Paul.
So related to that, I think there were 3 applications for which we don't have that information.
What information?
The information just requested by Chris.
No, we don't need that.
We don't need it
Not for
at all?
Not for a vandalism application. I
Okay.
think Chris is referring to the land acquisition, where you would need a board resolution from the cemetery.
All right.
Okay? Yes. I haven't got my glasses on. I can't see. My age, I can't keep them on and I can't keep them off. Yep.
There are 3 vandalism or hazardous applications, and the warranty information is not listed. However, this particular contractor offers a 20-year warranty,
Okay.
and we've got that in writing on other.
Right. So that's a good example. So, if we have the little checkoff thing or a little informational piece, we can get rid of the pros, actually, which will make your lives easier, too. And just do a checklist. I like that. Okay. Yep. All righty, so now, looking at the 4 orders in front of us, anybody have any questions or comments? They look okay? I mean, they look fine to me. These were all pretty much run-of-the-mill. All right. Well, can I have a motion?
I will move to approve all 4 vandalism applications.
Second, Paul?
Seconded.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next on our list, our sole substantive item on the agenda is the Garbutt'sville Cemetery, which is a land acquisition. And perhaps, Division, you want to give us a little précis? Who would like to do that?
Cindy, you want to come up and do it?
Here.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it from there. Hang on. Sure, why not?
What questions were there?
No, just tell us about it. What's the posture of the application?
Well, they're proposing, it's an acre, it's a small purchase, it's an acre of land, it's attached to the back of the cemetery. It's wooded, lightly wooded, brush covered, $4,000. They're out of land, so this is a matter of them being able to stay organized and have lots available or not.
2 questions that I noted. One, the access to the land, there's 2 points of entry, right? One is cemetery property, and the other in the report was some kind of utility
Right.
easement.
Water, I think it was a water utility.
Is that an important means of access to this property?
They could access it through the cemetery itself, so it's nice that they have that road there, but it's not necessary.
All right, and do they have an easement to go back and forth on that road, or is it just there? I mean,
I think it's just been an agreement. I'm not sure that it's a formal easement.
but they do have an agreement with the power company.
Yes,
Okay. But again, if that was to shut down and they weren't permitted on that property, they would still have access, it would be fine access?
yes.
Okay. Next question I had is, there's a projection of 360,000 in lot sales, to come to fruition someday. Now, I noticed on your report that they had 1 interment the year before.
Right.
Is that right? So this is a heck of a long time in coming, right?
It will be over time.
Have sales been depressed? I mean, I don't imagine there would be a ton of sales, but have sales been depressed because there's not good land left, good spots left?
They don't have any for sale. What they have is, they have reservations, they've already sold graves, and those who have those deeds are entitled to burial there, but they don't have any more graves to sell.
I didn't realize that.
So this is,
all right.
it's kind of important to their well-being.
Yep. All right. Any questions? Discussion?
No.
All right. You've done an able job. Before I put this up for a vote, is this cemetery here today? No. Okay, that's fine. All right. Well, no further discussion being had. Can I have a motion?
I would just ask that the motion be made as written in the proposed order.
Where is the proposed order, Mr. Melillo?
Chet just had it.
I thought you were handing it over.
That's right. This is sort of new for us because we had recent legislation which, in prior times, we'd be making a recommendation to the Supreme Court, all right, to approve, and the Attorney General would represent us before the Supreme Court, and that was universally acknowledged and obeyed, essentially. The Supreme Court would defer to our opinion. However, we have legislation which has streamlined the process. Now the board has direct authority to approve or deny. So now we've got nifty new motions to make sure that we do it right.
Here's the actual order.
Boy, that's long. Oh my God. Okay. Who wants to
Blame
make
Tony.
the motion? I can't see it. I can't do it.
By application dated December 2nd, 2015, the Garbutt'sville Cemetery Association, Monroe County, Cemetery number 28-008, requested Cemetery Board approval to purchase real property for cemetery purposes for the amount of $4,000. The Cemetery Board has reviewed the application, reports, and appraisals, and has determined that the agreed-upon price for the real property does not exceed its fair and reasonable market value. The Cemetery Board approves the purchase, including the price to be paid and the method of payment. Therefore, pursuant to
That's all you,
Okay.
the extent of the motion.
Before I comment on that wonderful resolution, motion, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And we're going to work to shorten that.
Sounds good to me. It's only 4 lines of text.
Right. Okay, very good. Is there anything else for the board before I open it up for public comment? Okay, so, yeah, that is our public agenda for the day. So what I'd like to do now is open up the meeting for anybody who would like to have discussion with the board, comment, talk about, Game of Thrones last night, whatever it is that's going to be fun. So, wow, we all need some more coffee. Yes.
Louis, regarding regarding the guidance on the out of here, when do you see that coming to a conclusion, and will that parallel what is decided on the
I can answer the second question. It's going to look different from the one on permanent maintenance. In some ways, it's going to be simpler. In other ways, it's going to be more complicated. Two issues we have going on. The issue we have going on here is that perpetual care funds are individual accounts established to care for particular lots. You can't use the income for one to care for another or to provide general care for the cemetery. Same issue appears with respect to the appreciation on them. So that's another layer of complexity. The first question depends really on how quickly we can set up a follow-up meeting with folks at NISAC, which we'll probably be discussing doing some point. We're not going to have the meeting today, but we'll be discussing a date probably sometime today.
Yes.
I think that the board needs to address that we're Barrington.
Yes, how are you?
And we have 550 burial societies. Last year, we had $50,000 of unpaid annual fees. People who just said, oh, the cemetery is looking so good, we're not paying anymore. This year, we see it's going down even more, and we see the trajectory that eventually it will stop. Now, we have in our rules and regs going forward from 10 years ago that anything on the grave, any plantings, any pebbles must be under the ground. We need the cemetery board to either allow us or to change their ruling, the wording for the annual care letter, because the annual care says we can remove plantings if they're dangerous. Well, to allow them to become dangerous, they have to grow and be unsightly. We just spent a bloody fortune cleaning up. I am not going back to what it was 10 years ago. But I need the power to be able to make my letters a little stronger to say, if you don't have care, we can remove whatever's on the grave and just plant grass.
Yeah, so I understand, the contributions are voluntary, right? That's what the issue is?
I asked Richard Fishman years ago.
Well, Richard he never gave good advice to anybody, right? Right, Richie? No. So I'm not making light of it.
Not demand that they can care beyond every grave. We don't have that right.
Right.
The Catholic cemeteries do it, we cannot. Consequently, with all the huge
Yeah.
number of burial societies, we have no control. And we've eliminated, we are not selling to any burial societies going forward
Right.
again from 10 years ago. I've done everything in my power
No, to me, and we haven't dealt with this as a board directly. This has been a division matter. The issue, it seems to me, is a matter of contract, all right? What was it that you negotiated, whether you even know, God knows, right? It might be many decades ago. What was negotiated with the burial societies, and what's in paper with respect to that?
That goes back 100 years.
Right, but those documents are still important if you have them. But in any event, that's something that certainly we can take up. I think it starts at the division level. And by the way, I think Richard's advice was correct in terms of there are things you can't, for instance, you can't, without a contractual obligation, demand money. It's a voluntary contribution. We understand that. But your concern, and I think we all hear it, is that, well, look, we're not getting money to keep the plots the way they ought to be kept with the plants that are there. So let us do something so that we don't have to expend extraordinary resources to maintain the property and keep it looking good. Got it. All right, so let's take that up. We'll start with Louis. Can you want to not give an answer, but why don't you just take that and work on it and report back to the board? Sound good?
Sure, I'm not sure what,
You don't want it.
I mean,
I think it sounds great.
Well, but we really have, I think we have to look at, I mean, I have no idea, the board has no idea what your contractual relationship is or what documents are, so I'd like the division to see that. Yeah.
Just to speak further on what I'm counsel to Maimonides, our contracts don't state if you don't, there's no double negative. It says there's annual care, there's perpetual care. It doesn't state, well, if there's no care, we're allowed to remove dead or remove, it doesn't address the negative. It just addresses the options that are available. So I guess, because we're all in that situation.
Right.
I guess the reality is we need guidance from the cemeteries that can we go the next step? Your failure to provide for annual perpetual care will give us.
yeah, and we can't just go and say, notwithstanding your contracts that don't require this, you now can go ripping out plants in cemeteries without any right to do that. We don't have that legal authority.
Well,
Unless Tony thinks we do.
well-
I mean, dangerous is different. That's in the statute.
I think, I'm glad to hear there are attorneys involved, because I think what you should do is have your attorneys summarize the issues in an attorney letter and summarize what advice you're seeking. Because you're not seeking us to reinterpret your contract. That's not our role. We want to make sure you're honoring your contracts, and you want to make sure you're not in trouble with us. So I think there's a way to deal with this, but let's see what you can present to us and be as precise as you can in describing what you want from division.
There's a gentleman raising his hand that I don't recognize him, but maybe he can identify himself.
I'm the Richard Fishman.
And you approved this message.
Since I'm not working for anybody except myself, that whole system is ridiculous. It makes no business sense, not economic sense. Puts a burden on the cemeteries. The issue of if they don't pay, is the cemetery taking care of the grounds themselves because they don't have the money? Yes, they are in most cases. So they're breaking the law, quote unquote. The contract is a joke because there is no real contract. So it needs legislative remedy, I believe, to make it real. And I think that goes with perpetual care also because it makes no sense. Most of the Jewish cemeteries here and those that have perpetual care in other respects, most of those accounts have been moribund for 40 or 50 years. And the ones that are more active are in effect subsidizing those because the income off of those accounts is insufficient. So the whole concept of care, we've done the sausage factory thing here, and it needs to be put together as a whole. And My personal feeling, now that I'm working with some cemeteries and I'm sitting on the other side of the table, is that they need a one pot of maintenance money to take care of the entire cemetery. And if you want to have plantings, we'll take care of it, we'll charge you whatever for extra to the grave, whatever it is. I mean, there is, I'm just shooting my mouth off. But there has to be a remedy to make sense out of a system that is created by good faith rather than economics.
I mean, to be fair, there are some cemeteries right now, I think you're, Barbara, you're one of them, where you now require either perpetual or annual care.
No, yes. No, perpetual care if there's a bed, stones, plants.
Right, you won't lay it without.
I will not be, that's it.
Right.
When you buy the grave, you know this. When you bury, you know this. But that doesn't take care of the past 100 years, and it doesn't take care of people who buried before we changed our rule. And we changed our rule with the blessing of Richard, who suggested, because he saw what was happening. Our cemetery was run by progressives who you know, and there were all kinds of problems, and I mean, 80% of the cemeteries, burial societies that we have no control over. So I need to be able to say, I can't use somebody else's money to clean up, that if you're not gonna pay for it, and 50,000, you can only imagine, 50,000 last year, 100 and whatever the annual care is, that's a lot of graves that are going uncared for now. Because we did such a wonderful job cleaning up, what we don't have to pay anybody, we're doing this for nothing. And that can only get worse going forward with the millennials who are disposing of society. So I think we have to address it now and quickly, because if we wait too long, we're all going to be.
Well, perhaps we can come to an understanding which will be of assistance, but I actually think Richard's comments are very well taken. 2 years, by the way, 2 years. It's okay, 2 years. General topic.
Even within 2 years, that would have been okay.
Yeah, that's true. But of course, that's a long-term kind of solution, as you know. But for now, I think that Tony's suggestion that we get something into us so that he can take a look at it and the division can take a look at it. Maybe there's some accommodation that can be made that will be beneficial for the cemetery. And I understand. I mean, you made your point well. Anybody else? Well, all right then. Look who it is. Mr. Fleming. I won't tell you to hop and skip up here.
If you folks could point out, or someone from the board or the division point out for those tenants, the new change that you just approved, that land sale.
Yeah.
If you could just let folks know what happens now after you approve that land sale, just to clarify what the process will be.
Sure.
For the board, so they understand that.
I'll give that to Louis.
We'll send you a letter saying that it's approved. You don't need to go to court. And in fact, you shouldn't be paying an attorney to draft a petition in the first place because you aren't going to need to go to court. Although, to be fair, much of what's in the petition you would have submitted to the court is stuff we want, but it's something you don't need counsel for necessarily.
You know what?
Just to add,
We need counsel.
you asked about the land sale, right? Okay, because land purchase is clean. You never have to go to Supreme Court. There are some land sales where you might. The board, the way the legislation reads, the board can have it go to Supreme Court. I think it's unlikely that the board would. I think that was put there because a not-for-profit, when it sells substantially all its assets, needs Supreme Court approval. And I think that language was kept in there so that if a cemetery were to ever do that, sell all its land, the Supreme Court approval would also be required, not just Cemetery Board. So I doubt that the division or the board would seek Supreme Court approval for the ordinary cases.
Did that clear things up?
Okay. All right.
I think it might also be helpful if we had a sample petition.
You mean a sample application? We don't have petitions anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I was going to mention, the checklist idea is really good for this. The timing is perfect, because you're not going to be doing petitions anymore. You don't want to spend the money, but there is material that the division looks for and that we look for in the petition. So if we extract what it is that we want to see and put that on this little form that the cemeteries themselves could fill out, that would be a time saver. Yeah.
And I can tell you right now that we should do that. I can tell you right now the things that are most commonly missing from what we get. One is how many graves you have left. 2 is a projection of future sales in the land. 3 is sort of related to that, maybe call it 2A, why you need it. And the other thing there's one other thing that's commonly missing. Oh, appraisals. They often do not come in with 2 appraisals, and appraisals mean something signed by a licensed appraiser, not a broker's price opinion.
Yes.
How much wiggle room is there on those appraisals? Do you allow a cemetery to buy or pay a property above and beyond the appraised value?
That depends. Yeah, I know you've heard some of the board discussions with these things, and there have been times when we're presented with this scenario where maybe the appraisal is low, or maybe it's a $500 property, and 2 appraisals might be a little overwhelming. And really, all I can tell you is that is idiosyncratic for each situation. There's no policy. It doesn't. We require 2 appraisals. We want a fair market estimate. There may be times when the purchase price exceeds the appraisal, where, depending upon what's presented, the board may feel that it's okay. But again, it's very contextual. It's very contingent on the actual facts of the application and what's trying to be accomplished. So I can't give you a policy. All right. What I can tell you is that nothing is out of bounds. All right. It's not. There is no rule that says, if your fair market appraisal doesn't meet the price, then we're going to reject it, period. It's out of hand. You'd never get it before the board if that were the case. But again, idiosyncratic.
Did you factor in the lack of available land at the cemetery?
Possibly. Hey, look, your scenario, what you're telling me is that, look, the land's appraised at $5,000, but this land for us is worth a ton of money, and we absolutely need it. We have no more burial land. We're not serving the community, and the seller's only going to take 10 grand. That's the way it is. Sorry, we tried to negotiate, and you put that before the board. You know, we would seek to go to the verity of that, whether it's a sweetheart deal or not, obviously, but that's something for the board to consider. You know, what I'm telling you, it's not out of bounds. I don't want to encourage folks to go above fair market value, but
It can tie your hands a little bit if you're competitively bidding a property. And this is with Westchester County, so we're talking millions, not thousands.
Right. No, I understand. But again, it would be what are the facts? What's going on? Is the property available or not? Was there a good faith negotiation? And I know Mr. Malillo wants to.
I just want to add one other point.
Yeah, says you can't do it, Dan. No.
I mean, you have the ability to work with the appraiser and let the appraiser know this, if it's the last piece of contiguous land available to the cemetery, the appraiser should be told that, and that it has special value to you, because the appraiser will do additions or deductions to the comparables that he's using. And so, for like the one we had today, except for the cemetery, that parcel was landlocked. Nobody else would have wanted that parcel. So actually that brought the price down. Some of the appraisal actually brought the price down because it was landlocked. So likewise, if you let the appraiser know this has special value to you, they could increase the fair market value based on that, and they just lay it out in their report.
Well, we did look at this property that is the last contiguous piece. It's a 15 or 16 acre parcel, and it's been an approved subdivision, so we appraised it as a subdivision. And yet it has far more value than that in the cemetery, assuming it can get the property approved as cemetery property, which for the town of Greenberg is going to be a tall order. It could take years, even decades. But it is the last contiguous piece. But they also, these appraisers, given their professional standing and certification for the certificate, they sort of have a set of standards they have to abide by. I don't know that they can factor in your particular situation. That's something that I think he's thinking that the Cemetery Board would have to apply.
We do not set standards of appraisals. There's something out there called USPAP that sets standards for appraisers. It's a different division within our department that licenses appraisers. Having said that, the board does want to see in an appraisal a comparison with other similar parcels, along with any distinguishing factors that pertain to the cemetery. A document that says the cemetery will make X amount of dollars off of this, and therefore that's what this property is worth, is not the kind of appraisal we're looking for. This is a real case. We had that once.
No, I'm not looking to go to that.
Yeah.
But the way it seems currently constituted, it seems to tie your hands a little bit. I appreciate you.
When the time comes, present it and we'll work with you.
Well, right now, the seller and Brooklyn are pretty far apart.
Right. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for having us here today. It's always fun, and I appreciate whatever little controversy we were able to generate. So, so thanks again, and watch us on TV.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Bye now.
So you got real experience of real government this morning so far. Lunch is now at 11:30 in the room.
Was that we go into executive session, and then we come out of executive session usually with nothing to report, and adjourn and set the next meeting date. So what I'd like now is a motion to, in fact, I'll make the motion to enter into executive session.
Next meeting date.
For executive,
Next
for...
meeting date
Wait a minute, I'll do that in a minute. For investigative and litigative matters. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. 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 Nothing says we can't do that meeting date now. Go
Yes,
ahead.
it is. You're no longer in session.
Do the meeting date.
Chris, we're talking about the third Wednesday this month, right?
Yeah.
Third Wednesday in May? That being May 18th.
Okay. Sound good, everybody? All right. May 18th it is at 10:30?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.